Love one. Love two. As he spoke, Phil held his hand to his heart and raised one finger, then two. Then he bowed his head and whispered one last sentence. Sorry for bothering you. In my notebook, I finished sketching that pointy S symbol that we all drew in high school. I never actually write anything down, but it gives patients the comforting idea that I'm in the process of figuring it out. How often do you perform this ritual, Phil? I asked. He looked up. Every 5 minutes. He had a messy beard and a weathered face that made him appear much older than he probably was. 5 minutes? I repeated, trying not to sound too surprised. That was unusually frequent, even for a patient with severe OCD. Do you feel any relief after the ritual is complete? He shook his head. Never. What are you afraid will happen if you don't perform the ritual? He closed his eyes and shook his head. Phil, you can tell me, I said encouragingly. That's what I'm here for. He took a deep breath. The man with 2 knives. Fear of death or murder was one of the most common manifestations of OCD. But of course, I didn't want to minimize his fear, which is still very real to him. That sounds frightening, Phil, I said. Can you tell me more about this man? He swallowed. If I miss a ritual, he comes in the middle of the night and he... It's okay, I said gently. I don't want to upset you. I turned to his wife, who was anxiously massaging his knee with her hand. Anne, how has this impacted you? I asked. It must be difficult seeing your husband suffer this way. You must worry every day. Especially when he's at work or traveling. He never leaves the house, she said quietly. This is the first time he's been out in 3 years. He's been on disability the whole time. He's so terrified and... My new assistant, Noah, opened the door. Noah, I'm in the middle of a session. Sorry, it's the school. He blushed. They said it's urgent. They want to talk about Emma's trial. I shook my head and apologized. I'll be right back. As I walked out of the office, Noah stood in the doorway and stared at Phil and Anne. Apparently, he had learned nothing from the orientation, but I didn't have time to deal with him right now. I stepped out and took the call. The school wanted me to testify in Emma's favor, which I was already planning to do. I got the sense that they were more worried that I'd try to blame the school as revenge for firing me. But revenge is petty, especially at the cost of a young person's future. I finished the call and returned to my office. I am so sorry for the interruption, I said as I took my seat. Now, there's good news and bad news here. The bad news is that you certainly seem to be suffering from a severe case of obsessive-compulsive disorder. The good news is that you came in for help, and OCD is very treatable. Phil leaned forward. You can stop him? Yes, I said confidently. I'm not a huge fan of medication, but I think antidepressants could help take the edge off while we begin a regimen of mindfulness and talk therapy. In a few months, those rituals will be a thing of the past. My whole team is here to help you. I didn't want to refer him out to my colleagues too quickly, but this was a pretty classic case of OCD, and I felt that my resources might be better spent on patients with more unusual issues. Phil shook his head. No. I'm sorry? No. I can't take medications. I can't stop the rituals. Of course you can, I said. That's why we're here. No. He said again. Otherwise, he'll do it again. I was becoming a bit frustrated by this point. Phil, that's the whole reason. Show us, Phil said to his wife. She winced and shook her head slightly. Please, Phil pleaded. Show us. Anne closed her eyes and lifted up her shirt. Her torso was covered in at least a dozen stab wounds. Before I even had a chance to react, Phil held his hand to his heart again. Love one. Love two. Jesus Christ, had it already been 5 minutes? Sorry for bothering you.